There are places in the world that feel wrong, not because of what you can see, but because of what you can't explain. In San Jose, California, there is a mansion like that. A house with over 160 rooms, staircases that lead into ceilings, doors that open into nothing, and hallways that loop back into themselves like a mind that forgot where it was going. But the strangest part is not the architecture, it's the belief that the house is still unfinished. This is the story of Sarah Winchester and the house that never stopped growing. Sarah Lockwood Partee was born in 1839 in New Haven, Connecticut, into a well-respected and comfortable family. Her early life was not marked by fame or tragedy, but by privilege, education, and refinement. She grew up in a world where Victorian expectations shaped every aspect of a young woman's future: marriage, motherhood, and domestic grace. She was known to be intelligent, soft-spoken, and socially polished. Nothing in her childhood hinted at the strange legacy she would later become associated with. New Haven at the time was a growing New England city filled with academic influence and industrial change. Sarah's upbringing placed her in the middle of a world that valued structure, order, and morality. Ironically, everything her future home would seem to reject. In 1862, Sarah married William Ward Winchester, heir to the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. This marriage was not just romantic, it connected her to one of the most powerful industrial fortunes in America. The Winchester rifle was becoming legendary, known later as the gun that won the West. For a time, life seemed stable and promising, but beneath the stability, tragedy was already forming. In 1866, Sarah gave birth to a daughter, Annie Partee Winchester. The joy was short-lived. The baby became severely ill and died only weeks after birth, likely from a wasting illness of infancy. This loss shattered Sarah emotionally. Those close to her said she never fully recovered from the grief of losing her only child, and it would not be the last loss she would endure. Between 1880 and 1881, tragedy struck again. Her father-in-law died, her mother-in-law died, and finally, her husband, William Winchester, died of tuberculosis at just 43. With these deaths, Sarah inherited an enormous fortune, millions in wealth, and nearly half of the Winchester Company. But emotionally, she was alone. No children, no husband, no close family left in her immediate world. She withdrew from public life more and more, and rumors about her emotional state began to grow. It was during this period of grief that the most famous part of the story emerges. According to legend and latest stories told by tour guides and newspapers, Sarah consulted a spiritual medium. The message she allegedly received was chilling. The spirits of those killed by the Winchester rifles were angry. The medium warned that these spirits were now attached to her family's fortune and to her personally. The only way to survive? She must move west and never stop building a house. A house for the spirits. A house that must never be finished. If construction stopped, she would die. Now there is no verified historical proof this conversation truly happened, but it became the foundation of the Winchester Mystery House legend. In 1885, Sarah Winchester left Connecticut and moved to California for her health. Doctors believed the dry, warm climate would help her worsening conditions, including arthritis and general fatigue. She purchased a modest farmhouse in San Jose, surrounded by orchards and open land. She named it Lanada Villa. At first, it was a simple 8-room home. Simple. 8-room house is a mansion. I guess that time for her it might have been small, but 8-room is a mansion. But no one could have predicted what it would become. By 1886, construction began, and it never truly stopped for decades. Carpenters worked on new rooms, staircases, hallways, towers, secret passages, and on expanding wings. But there was something unusual. Sarah Winchester often changed her mind. Rooms were built, then sealed off. Stairs were built that led nowhere. Doors opened into walls. Windows looked into other rooms instead of outside. Hallways twisted and turned in confusing patterns. The house became less like a mansion and more like a labyrinth. At its peak, it contained about 160 rooms, around 10,000 windows, and roughly 2,000 doors. Dozens of staircases and fireplaces as well. Over time, the unusual architecture fueled speculation. People began to believe Sarah designed it to confuse spirits, trap ghosts, or even protect herself from supernatural forces. But historians suggest a different truth is more likely. Sarah was deeply interested in architecture and design. She frequently redesigned sections of the house, not out of fear, but creative experimentation. She was also managing massive construction continuously for decades, which naturally led to inconsistencies and strange layouts. Then came the earthquake. In 1906, the Great San Francisco earthquake struck the region. The Winchester house was heavily damaged. Entire sections collapsed, a tower fell, upper floors were destroyed. Afterward, Sarah did not fully rebuild everything. Some areas were left unfinished forever. Doors that opened into empty air, staircases that led into ceilings, balconies that no longer existed. These remnants added to the eerie reputation of the house. But again, this was less supernatural and more structural history frozen in time. Sarah became increasingly private as she aged. She rarely appeared in public and focused heavily on managing her estate, investments, and construction decisions. She also lived a fairly isolated life in the mansion. Contrary to myth, there is little evidence she conducted seances regularly or believed she was constantly haunted. She was described by some who knew her as reserved, intelligent, and business-minded. On September 5, 1922, Sarah Winchester died in her sleep at the age of 83. When she passed away, construction on the house immediately stopped. For decades, it had been in near constant development, and now it was silent. Shortly after her death, the house was sold, and then it turned into a tourist attraction. Within months, visitors were walking through its strange hallways. Guides began telling stories about ghosts, curses, spiritual warnings, and the endless construction. A narrative quickly formed. Sarah Winchester had built the house to escape spirits. Whether true or not, the story stuck. Even the famous visitors like Harry Houdini toured the house and left intrigued. Over time, visitors began reporting unusual experiences, including cold spots in certain rooms, strange echoes, doors that seemed to move on their own, a feeling of being watched, sudden temperature changes. Some even claimed to see the ghost of Sarah Winchester wandering the halls. However, there is no scientific proof of paranormal activity. Most explanations point to traps in the old wooden structure, optical illusions, the maze-like design affecting perception, and lastly, our favorite, the power of suggestion during guided tours. Still, you cannot deny the eerie atmosphere of the house. Today, the Winchester Mystery House is a fully preserved historic landmark. It is also a major tourist attraction in San Jose, California. You can also get a guided tour experience that is open to the public. Visitors can explore the famous staircase to nowhere, sealed doors that open into walls, the massive ballroom, hidden passage used by staff, restored rooms filled with Victorian detail. It is no longer a decaying mansion. It is a carefully maintained museum of mystery. The Winchester Mystery House endures because it sits at the crossroads of grief, wealth, architecture, legend, and mystery. Whether Sarah was a grieving widow seeking meaning, a creative architectural mind experimenting freely, or a woman shaped into myth by storytelling, the result is the same. It is a house unlike any other in the world, a place where reality and legend blur. The truth about Sarah Winchester is likely far more human than supernatural. She was a woman who experienced profound loss and lived in an era that often misunderstood grief in women, especially wealthy private ones. I would say all women at that time, but especially wealthy private ones. The house she built may not have been for ghosts, but it has certainly become one of America's most famous haunted stories. And even today, visitors still walk its twisting hallways, always wondering if the house is still unfinished. So this was the story of the Winchester Mystery House. What did you think? Do you actually believe the house might be haunted? There are spirits trapped in all these rooms? I've seen YouTube videos of people actually going and experimenting and experiencing, supernatural things, but I guess we will never know till we explore it ourselves. I also want to thank all of you for listening. If you've made it this far, please like and comment. Thanks again for listening. Until the next one.